This segment is brought to you by Barker Honda. It's better at Barker. All right, welcome back. Bayou Time News, I'm Martin Falls, joined by the First Lieutenant of the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Department, Blake Tabor. Good to see you.
Good to see you too,
How are
Martin.
you,
Thanks.
sir? Everything good?
Everything's great.
All right. Y'all got a couple of stories here that we're talking about because let's start off with the parfait story first. That involves drugs. Then we'll get to the knife story, but I'll give you the floor.
Absolutely. So this is a case that culminated on September 4th, shortly after 8 p.m. We had some deputies that were doing some proactive patrols, as we commonly do. They were in an east side Houma neighborhood doing those particular patrols when they observed a vehicle that committed a traffic infraction. And then when they turned the vehicle around to try to intercept that vehicle, it parked in front of another house. So again, those actions certainly seemed very suspicious to the deputies. So ultimately that led to a traffic stop where they came into contact with a female driver who provided them an identity. It didn't take us very long to realize that that identity she provided was not the accurate person that they were dealing with, which is a common occurrence for us. But ultimately, they were able to positively identify the driver as a Violet Teresa Parfait, 46 years of age. You see her photographed here. So ultimately, anytime we have that level of deception on any type of traffic stop, certainly, things can culminate very quickly, which also happened in this case. And that led ultimately to a search of the vehicle where they discovered several different types of illegal narcotics as well as drug paraphernalia. They were able to locate those items within the vehicle while they identified Ms. Parfait. So ultimately, they took her into custody on several different charges, and I'll read off some of those charges right now. She was booked on driving under suspension, resisting an officer by giving false information, possession of CDS-1, which was heroin, possession of CDS-2 methamphetamines, possession of drug paraphernalia, and also a failure to appear warrant, as well as other traffic-related offenses. She is currently still, at the time of this case, jailed on a $15,000 bond by local judges.
Okay, and we have that. And then if we could switch gears a little bit, y'all had a knife incident that I'd like for you to talk about.
Absolutely. And so, look, there is no shortage of circumstances where we deal with people with knives on the street, right? But it's probably not something that is as common as people would think. This particular one was very interesting because although it led to a pretty serious injury, the situation could have turned much different very quickly, and we could have very much been dealing with a homicide here. So that's important. So this incident happened on Saturday morning, September 6th, shortly before midnight, where deputies were called to a house on Douglas Drive. When we arrived there, we learned that there was a female witness that was present at the scene who said that she witnessed an altercation between a male suspect and another male who ultimately suffered a pretty serious injury, as she detailed it, as a result of a knife attack. So again, as we continue to investigate that matter, we learned very quickly that both subjects had departed the scene. The male suspect had left on a bike, heading in an unknown direction, and then the male victim had left in a vehicle. So we were able to quickly determine the identity of the person that was responsible for the knife attack, who was identified as a Brandon Adams Duplantis. You see him photographed here. Ultimately, we were able to quickly get some information on residential addresses and things like that for Duplantis. At that point, we were able to identify the victim, but that didn't assist us in locating him up to that point. So ultimately, we had some deputies that arrived at the residence of Duplantis, where they came into contact with him very quickly and ultimately determined that he was still in possession of the same knife on his person that was used during the incident, which, again, is not very common, but I believe the stars aligned in our favor for that. Ultimately, anytime we deal with this, of course, they want to question Duplantis. When they did, he did admit to being involved in a fight, but he did say that the knife injury is as a result of an accident. Now, of course, we certainly can't show you the picture of the injury that happened, but I can tell you that this was about a 10 to 12-inch laceration to the upper portion of the chest. Really hard to believe that that was accidental, right? Those types of things don't really happen to that magnitude. So ultimately, Duplantis was arrested on aggravated second-degree battery, and he is still incarcerated on a $25,000 bond. Now, currently, the victim, we're obviously not going to identify him at this point, but he was treated at a local hospital where he is recovering and in stable condition at this point. So we're happy about that.
Let me go back to your first story, because you were talking about suspicious behavior in vehicles, and I'm just recollecting my thoughts from when we'd ride with y'all on the beat. Seems like whenever somebody's being really suspicious, they do some dumb things in the vehicle, like they get out of character, don't
They really do. And I think that's the things that people need to realize. You know, we base a lot of our perceptions on things that are just normal, right? How do normal people respond to actions? So let's say when we pull a car over, when we talk to someone, right? We have to assume that people are going to be nervous when they encounter law enforcement. Most people are. So that is not necessarily a red flag. Now, lying to law enforcement is obviously something that is a conscious decision. And so when we start encountering those types of things, things can escalate very quickly. But yes, a lot of what we do is based on just common reaction, and I think people forget that a lot.
Yeah. Well, First Lieutenant, good to see you again, and I know your boys gearing up for a big game on Friday, so good to see you all.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you have it. First Lieutenant Blake Tabor. This boy's a good player. He's a good athlete. So we will check in with him. Again, he always comes in and gives us the news from the Sheriff's Department. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. This segment was brought to you by Barker Honda. It's better at Barker.